Can you live totally debt-free, independently, off-grid? Well, we are celebrating 4 years of living off-grid, and we are going to go into all of the lessons and learnings and experiences we've had over these last 4 years living out here in the Sonoran Desert. For those of you who are new to our channel, we are the Terraform Homestead, and we are a off-grid homestead out in the Sonoran Desert, one of the harshest environments you could possibly homestead in. And we've been living here for 4 years now. We are celebrating our 4-year anniversary. I am so excited about that, and wanted to take you guys through our journey and what we have learned living off-grid in the last 4 years. We bought this land, 24 acres, completely abandoned, not a road to get here, in January of 2020. As everybody knows, March of 2020 is when the COVID pandemic really took off. And so for the first 2 years of living out here, we were going through the pandemic and not only trying to survive in the real world, but also trying to survive out on our abandoned desert land. We started with no water, no electricity, no shelter, no anything, not even a road to get into our property, and have been building it up over the last 4 years. I'm happy to say, after 4 years, we are finally out of survival mode and able to really enjoy this property for what it is and enjoy the debt-free lifestyle of living off-grid, building your own home, and get to enjoy life and our hobbies and our pursuits and build a community, which is really amazing. Year 4, it's crazy to think about that. One of the big focuses this year was water security and water stability. We have the privilege to be able to rebuild some of this land this year, and we ended up putting in over 600 feet of berm and swale that will capture around 20,000 gallons of water per inch of rain we get. That is an incredible amount of water, and something that is going to affect this land for the rest of time, to be able to rebuild some of this desert ecosystem that has been destroyed over the years from neglect and overfarming and cattle ranching and things of that nature. So I'm very grateful to have been able to be a part of rebuilding some of the permaculture and some of the ecosystem out here in our desert home. We live totally on rainwater out here, or hauled water. Up to this point, we have had to haul most of our water in here, which is very expensive. And so this year, the big push was to get water security. I'm excited to say we have added over 1,200 gallons of water tanks that are currently functioning, and we started the build of our 6,500 gallon earthbag cistern that will basically give us water security. Once our earthbag cistern is done, we will have over 13,000 gallons of water tank storage capacity out on this land. Even with 5 or 6 people out here, we are living off of 1,000 gallons a month or less. So our 13,000 gallon capacity should tide us over until our next monsoon season, which is really exciting and will really cut down significantly on the minimal bills that we have out here, because we won't have to be trucking in water anymore, which is really, really exciting. Additionally, with this new cistern, we are able to fully capture the water that is coming off of our roofs. We were able to add enough roof space that we are getting around 1,000 gallons of water captured per inch of rain. So out here in the Sonoran Desert, it is the desert, but we still get 13 to 15 inches a year. So 13 to 15,000 gallons of water coming down and being collected, 13,000+ gallons of tanks. In theory, we're good. We should be able to survive very comfortably off of rainwater only in this next year. In addition to our potable water tanks, we added a 1,500 gallon seep tank. This is a tank that is buried. It was a cracked septic tank that was not used, fortunately, that we put underground and are basically able to fill that when we get our rains in our berm and swale. That will hold 1,500 gallons that we can use for trees or construction or things like that, and it will slowly seep into the ground. So we're able to plant more permaculture sort of things out in our desert home and hopefully make this fully food sustaining at some point in life. Power security was another big deal for us this year. So we have been running off of 2,800 watts of solar. Last year we upgraded our inverter and our batteries to have about 9,600 watts of storage capacity. This is a very small system for running the entire homestead, but battery and solar are very expensive. So one thing we added this year was a generator, which is super nice to have. We are in the Arizona desert, so we get 370 days of sun a year, but for those 10 days of sun that we don't get, we do have to kind of struggle a little bit. We found a generator on sale through Amazon's Black Friday deals that was just crazy good and purchased it. So now we have backup power just in case. The bonus to that is now we can weld in this house that I'm sitting in right now, our little hyper adobe house, and be able to weld and do off-grid projects totally anywhere independent of our solar system, which is a huge deal. With the addition of this generator and our solar setup, we were able to get air conditioning, which, oh, it's such a luxury. Being out here in the summer for 3 summers, not having air conditioning when it's regularly over 105 was absolutely miserable. So I'm so happy to be able to say I have air conditioning, and that just basically makes my days more productive because I can work during the day instead of being miserable and hot all the time. 2 huge steps forward with the comfort and getting out of survival mode on our off-grid homestead. Getting into what we have accomplished this year, it has been a big year for building out here. We put the roof on our little hyper adobe 280 square foot earthbag home that I am sitting in right now, and was able to add that roof to our rainwater storage tanks and basically get this building sealed in. It is far from finished, but it's at least at a place where it is dried in, safe, comfortable, and we can work on it as we see fit. This was a huge push to get not only our roof on, but our interior plaster started, our floor started. The other big push we did this year was our little tiny home. This is a 54 square foot home that I lived in for a year and a half, traveling all over the country, and it eventually broke, but it made it 15,000 miles around the country through some pretty rough roads. And the steel broke, not my weld. So that was at least a positive. We took it here and a couple years ago cut the axles off, cut the tongue off, and started cobbing it. I'm happy to say we have finally finished that project. We replaced the roof because the mice chewed a hole through our roof, which we found out this summer, and have that as a comfortable dwelling. In addition, we built a beautiful outdoor kitchen out of scrap materials. We had our bamboo shade structure from the last year, and this is just a beautiful little cozy den that I am excited to hopefully be renting to another artist or entrepreneur or somebody that just needs a little bit of a hand up in 2024. When I talk to people who are interested in homesteading and ask what it is like, I usually tell people that you can expect to be in survival mode for about 3 years. And that was very true for us. Going into this 4th year, I feel like I finally have my feet under me and we are able to pursue more creative pursuits, more educational stuff through our nonprofit, and provide basically a place for people to learn and play and experiment with new medias and new art forms and just kind of express themselves. So some of the highlights this year, I feel like for me personally, was being able to dive into my art and actually start making a little bit of income off of that. The biggest project of the year was the Cochise County College Pitfire Festival. That was such a fun project. That is a festival that the college puts on every year where they hire a sculpture artist to build something out of pallets, and it gets burnt up at the end of the year. So me being a metalworking artist and somebody who uses pallets, I was chosen for it. I feel like it was a natural fit, and I'm so grateful to work with those students for 3 weeks to build this amazing sculpture that we ended up lighting on fire, and it was so cool. The fun part about living out here is we can pretty much do whatever we want, and with that, I love experimenting with different media and learning different skills. That is what I'm passionate about in life, and teaching people different skills. I'm so excited that we got our Blacksmithing Forge set up so we can do metalworking and blacksmithing out here. We were donated an anvil and we bought a little forge. We also set up a little smelting pot kind of thing, so now we can do some castings. We've done raku pottery out here. We've done all kinds of different creative pursuits, and I'm super excited for 2024 to expand my creative endeavors, including 3D printing. Got our 3D printer set up, which has been a game changer out here because we're able to just make whatever we want. We don't have to go to the store anymore and pay crazy Home Depot prices for bits and bobs and pieces on our builds. It's game changing out here. All the different tools and medias that we are able to work with. I'm excited that we set up a small pottery studio out here, and so we currently have 3 people on the property that are doing ceramics and expressing themselves through clay, which I find very therapeutic and wonderful. And hopefully in 2024 we will be building our own wood and gas fired kiln out here to be able to do pottery off the grid like people did for most of human history. So that has been so much fun, living off grid, having the financial freedom and time freedom to pursue more creative endeavors and be able to share that with other people. Going into 2024, I am excited from the lessons that I have learned living off-grid. I think one of the big things is just to be flexible with what you're doing and how you're doing it and be adaptive. Our plants have changed so many times out here, and not little changes like, oh, we're gonna, change the decor. It's like what we're building out here and what our priorities are. Originally, we started building a 1,200 square foot home, and then after realizing how much work this 280 square foot earthbag home is, decided to kind of abandon that project, which is a little tough after you've started it, but readjusting priorities and realizing that don't need as big of a space because it's not important to me. I'm very comfortable in my 250 square foot tiny house. I will be even more comfortable in our 280 square foot earthbag home and very content with life. The other thing I realized this year is to really prioritize what is important. That is why we shifted from this hyper adobe tiny house build to our earthbag cistern build, because I realized a second home was not as important as water security. It sounds like a dumb thing and an obvious thing, but when you're so deep into it and just like working so hard and not really thinking through things, you kind of get lost in just the busyness of any given day. So this year has been really great for me to kind of slow down a little bit and reprocess and just kind of reorient my life on what is a priority and what isn't a priority, and realize stuff gets built as it gets built. I don't need to rush and stress more than necessary. Another thing I learned this year about living off-grid is it is super important to have hobbies and interests outside of your homestead. I started doing ceramics this summer and just really fell in love with the media, and it has been so good for me to get off the property twice a week and force myself to go someplace else and do something different that is not thinking about the property, not thinking about doing content or videos, not thinking about building, and that has been such a nice break. So I wish whenever I started my homestead, I did dedicate, even if it was one day a week, to not building, doing something totally different, because I've been able to actually bring some of that calm and peace back to the property and be a better person because of it. So 2023 was definitely learning balance and kind of getting my head back on straight after 3 crazy years of COVID and building and not knowing what I'm doing and turning an off-grid property into something that is sustainable. 2024, we are continuing our push for independence and full self-sufficiency out here. We'll be finishing our earthbag cistern, so we have those videos coming out right now. This is a big push to get water security out here because that is really the last big piece that we need to feel totally comfortable and live self-sufficiently on this land. We are going to be finishing our earthbag hot tub. So that is a test piece to figure out how we want to plaster, what is the best way to retain water within an earthbag structure, because that's not something I have done before and not something I have seen anybody else do before. So we're testing some innovative ways to collect water, to store water, to have an earthbag hot tub, which I think is going to be really cool, that is totally off-grid. So those videos will be coming out in the next several weeks and months. We are also pursuing opening the property up more to the community and to travelers, and hopefully expanding our work trade program and hosting more long-term people out here that want to get some hands-on experience with earthbag building, with off-grid living, with sustainable living. And so look out in 2024, we will likely be having a hip camp set up. We will likely be expanding our tiny house residency program, which I will leave a link down below if you're interested in building your own tiny house on wheels and need a place to build and tools and some consulting work. We have that opportunity available for you here in Southern Arizona. We will also hopefully be finally finishing up our solar system and getting that mounted properly, because it has been janky for like 4 years now and not totally set up right considering it's on pallets. So I'd love to get that in and secured and totally finished and done nice and properly. The nice thing about being 4 years in now is we can take some more time to do things right instead of be rushed and in survival mode. I am also super excited to bring y'all more content on our earthbag tiny home build. We're going to be doing some really cool woodworking, some really cool metalworking in here, and just making this such a unique and interesting tiny house structure for next to no money that will last hundreds and hundreds of years. So hopefully we'll be able to be living in this home in the next year, and that will be a big accomplishment out here, because this will be our first home structure totally built from scratch, from earth, on this property. For those of you who have been following our channel for the last couple years and following our adventures out here on the Terraform Homestead, I want to thank you guys so much for the support and for the comments and really helping to keep me motivated and keep this project sustained, because we've hosted over 300 students out here. It is crazy to think that we've hosted 300 people have lived on this property in the last 4 years. For everybody who has continued to support us and watch our content, leave comments, things like that, thank you guys so much. I do read every comment, I respond to every comment. I want to give you guys the information that you want so that hopefully y'all can start your own self-sufficient lifestyle out wherever that is in the world, whatever that looks like for you. I think homeownership and living simply, living sustainably is the only way that people can go forward. So we will be bringing out content every single week, educational stuff, build stuff, all kinds of interesting off-grid, weird, fun, artistic projects, and hopefully help you on your off-grid homesteading journey. Check out our current earthbag cistern build. I've got that video queued up for you right now, along with some other additional content that I think you will enjoy. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for 4 years. Here is to another year living self-sufficiently off-grid. Y'all enjoy the new year and go build something cool.